Welcome. You have gotten the first taste of the evening, but it is not the only food you will get this evening. We're glad you're here, and I would like to ask us to be ready to begin. And when you hear the music, it's your cue. Shall we stand for the national anthem? Thank you. Please welcome with me Professor Colin Giles, President of the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. A warm welcome to you as I open the 4th annual Rickert Allen Memorial Lecture, which is hosted by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, UCC, in collaboration with the National Commercial Bank Foundation, NCB Foundation. I want to extend special welcome to you all, our esteemed guests, including our UCC founders, Dr. Winston Adams and Mrs. Geraldine Adams, who are joining us online, board members, faculty, staff, students, and of course, our representatives from the NCB, including Dr. Hopeland Hines, Head of Group Human Resources Division, Ms. Mukisa Ricketts, Group Chief Audit Executive, Jamila Cooks-Brown, Administrator, NCB Foundation, and Ms. Kenya Mattis, who I just met a while ago, Director for NCB Foundation. Other managers and staff, and of course, our presenters and panelists. Mr. Julian Fort, Olympian and NCB Ambassador, who I understand is joining us online, and all our other guests. He's right here. Ah, indeed, indeed. Let us give him a round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Fort. I just want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Your presence here underscores the importance of this gathering and the significance of the topic that we will explore this afternoon. Today, we gather not only to commemorate the remarkable legacy of Dr. Rickert Allen, but also to delve into crucial discussions on cybersecurity under the theme, Think Like a Hacker, Safeguard Your Digital Assets. Of course, we recognize that in today's rapidly developing technological era, hackers are at work. And it's only as we are able to understand what they do that we are able to safeguard our interests and to protect ourselves from their actions. And so it is a very timely discussion that we are having this afternoon. As we embark on this special occasion, it is essential to reflect on why we gather here each year for this lecture. Dr. Rickert Allen, a distinguished leader and visionary, left his indelible mark on both the UCC and NCB. His dedication to transformative leadership and his unwavering commitment to excellence continue to inspire us all. Through his leadership roles and his belief in education, Dr. Allen has helped many persons, numerous persons, to shape their future, and not only individuals but organizations. Today, we not only celebrate Dr. Allen's legacy, but also reaffirm our commitment to advancing cybersecurity education. In a rapidly evolving digital landscape, safeguarding our digital assets is paramount. Therefore, the focus of this year's lecture on cybersecurity aligns perfectly with our mission to equip our students with the skills and the knowledge needed to navigate this complex terrain. In closing, I want to invite you all to engage in the thought-provoking discussions that we anticipate will take place after the lecture. And I want to specially recognize the members of our expert panel who will be responding to matters that will be raised during the course of the lecture. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to strive for excellence by seeking to empower the next generation in this increasingly digital world, I just want to welcome you once again to this, the fourth Rickert Allen Memorial Lecture. Thank you all for coming. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor. And good night, members of the audience. And good night, our listeners and watchers on the internet, on YouTube and Facebook. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing the keynote speaker, Mr. Rory Ebanks, who is Director, Cybersecurity, Siptai Consulting Limited. Mr. Ebanks has over 9 years of experience in information security and IT audit, having earned a Master's of Science in Cybersecurity from EC Council University and a Bachelor's of Science in Computing and Information Technology from the University of Technology. His qualifications are many and include Certified Chief Information Security Officer, Certified Ethical Hacker, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, EC Council Certified Security Analyst, among others. Starting as a Senior Information Technology and Security Consultant, he was promoted to Information Technology Audit and Security Advisor, later transitioning to Director of IT Security Advisory. In this role, he provides daily direction for IT advisory and assurance services lines, Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ebanks.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invite, and I hope this session will be very, very insightful. So the topic will be Think Like a Hacker, and certain things that we'll be covering. So you'll get a background about Simtai Consulting. We are ethical hackers. I have some of my team members here. Some statistics around cybersecurity. Definitely some attacks. I'll be demonstrating some ways that cyber attacks happen, and also we'll be speaking about the different services that are involved. So about Simtai Consulting, we have been around for 26 years. We recently celebrated our anniversary, and we have over 60 different team members. So most of them are dedicated to the cybersecurity team. And even though we are focusing on cybersecurity as a company, we also offer digital transformation, risk and data services. So it's a very wholesome company, and in every aspect, we consider cybersecurity. These are some of the certifications, and it's a very long list when you look on it. Some of these certifications are very, very important when it comes on to cybersecurity. So just like hackers, they need to get information, they need to understand the ways of attacking persons. And for us to do the same for our clients, we also have to get training. So these are some of the industry-wide training. It doesn't matter if you have your bachelor's, if you have your master's, it's always important to get these training and certifications. So some key statistics that I want to go through before we begin. Every 39 seconds, there is a successful hacker attack. And I'm going to repeat that. Every 39 seconds, there's a successful attack. Not just an attack, but that means a breach would have happened. And I'm going to get into some details about breaches. That means for every single day, that's over 2,000 successful attacks. 92% of those, malware have been delivered through email. And a malware is a malicious software. We all use email. Every day we communicate through email. Most of the time, these emails have attachments. It may be a Microsoft Word document, a PowerPoint, or a PDF document. They may have malware in it. If you download that document, click on the link, your entire computer may get impacted. Over 4 million websites have malware at any given time. We all use the web. We all visit different types of websites, right? You may want to go shopping. You may see a link come up and you click on the link. Oh, this is a great deal, right? That website may have a malware on it. On average, it takes 49 days to identify that a malware has affected you. Sometimes it's immediate, but on average, it takes almost 50 days. We have seen cases where even years an organization has been impacted by a malware and they didn't know. They did not identify that this attack happened. So quick question. We have 5 options on the screen. Who is the hacker? Let's go back. Can anybody identify the hacker? You think that would be on the question? All options? All of the above? I hear A, C. Why all of the above?
Because you cannot stereotype how a hacker should look or their environment or their circumstances and say they have the most potential to become a hacker. In this day of information, anyone can hack into a system if they know where to look or how to hack into it.
So you're telling me you're looking on C and saying that that is a hacker?
Yes.
This is a child, you know. This is a child that looks like he's playing his game on his laptop. And you're really saying that he is a hacker?
He can be, yes.
He can be. Anybody else? All right, so that's the correct answer. So anybody can be a hacker. You have different types of hackers, yes. You have different means, but at the end of the day, there are various threat actors that are out there. You have states, countries that are targeting different countries. Even in the Caribbean, other countries may be targeting Jamaica. You have cyber criminals that are out there. Their main aim is to gain money. So a lot of time they launch these attacks and they're trying to get a financial reward. You have terrorist groups. We haven't seen it in the Caribbean, but across the world there are different terrorist groups that launches attacks. And you just have persons that are just thrill seekers. They like that adrenaline rush of breaking into a website. Some of my team members, they do get that adrenaline rush when they break into websites, when they break into system. But we are ethical hackers. We are authorized to do that. You even have insider threats. And insider threats could be your employees. You have never thought about that, right? An employee could be an insider threat. They already have access to your data. They already have access to your systems. How do you know that they don't have malicious intent? They're actually a step ahead of the hackers because they have already logged into your system and they're already on your network. Contractors, even your neighbors, could be a hacker. Maybe they don't want to pay for a Wi-Fi, right? And they try to break in and get free Wi-Fi. I'm pretty sure we have all been to maybe a hotel and we can't get onto the Wi-Fi and we try guessing some passwords. That's hacking right there. It's not legitimate, but it's a form of hacking. And IT professionals. So we are ethical hackers at Simtai Consulting. So there are different types of hacking. And the major difference with an ethical hacker is that we get permission to perform these attacks. So it is a contractual agreement between the company for us to launch these attacks. That's called a white hat hacker. You have black hat hackers who are the unethical types. They do not have any permission. They do not have any authorization. They try to break into your system, again, either to get money or to cause downtime or harm to your organization. You also have gray hat hackers. So they're right in between. So they're not fully ethical or unethical, but they do break into systems, and their main aim is to tell the organization that, hey, you have a bug or you have a weakness. And they want a little reward, they want a little money. So they're going to disclose how they got in. So that's typically called like a bug bounty or a zero-day exploit, meaning this is the first time they're identifying these weaknesses in the system. And a lot of times, attackers have to take this technique. So they have to break into systems. A lot of times you see updates being sent to your phone. That's because a security vulnerability or a bug was identified. These are some of the different types of attacks. This isn't even an exhaustive list. I'm just going to touch on a few of them. You have unsecured remote connections. Attackers can remotely try to connect into your network or environment. This could be through remote desktop. It could be you have a Microsoft Teams session up. You have a TeamViewer session, but they stay external from your environment and they try to connect in. It could be through your VPN. You may be working from home. That same connection that you use to connect into your company environment, and hacker could use that same access. Wireless attacks or Wi-Fi, open Wi-Fi. This is a very prime example of how hackers can target everyone right here. One of the first things you typically do when you go to the airports is after you have checked in, can I get Wi-Fi access, right? No? Even at the airport, if you're at the airport, especially in a foreign country, you're going to want wireless. You're going to want internet. Majority of the time, those networks are what's classified as open Wi-Fi or open network. When it's an open Wi-Fi, you do not know who else is on that network. You don't know what they're doing with your information. You may only be seeing that, yes, I'm connected to the internet, but in the back, they may be capturing your information. They may be sending you to a fictitious website. And we all want to be connected, right? Password attacks. We use password on a day-to-day basis. Hackers know that we use passwords. Do we set the strongest passwords? Yes? Sometimes? You'll be surprised of some of the passwords that we see when we go on engagements. Extremely weak. I'm going to show you some of the top 12 passwords that are seen right across the world. 1, 2, 3. That's one of them. That is one of them. I hope that's not your password. Then social engineering. So you have different types of social engineering attacks. And this is one of the prevalent attacks that's out there. It's playing on the human emotions in terms of tricking someone to click on a link, visit a website. It's delivered, so phishing is PHI, by the way. Delivering this through email communication. You may get an email to say, hey, you have won an Amazon gift card for $50, right? Click on this link. They're trying to phish you. Or vishing through voice. They're calling you. In Jamaica, we may say that's lotto scamming, right? That's a part of social engineering. You have won a prize, send me your details to collect it. And you even have SMS, smishing, sending text messages, even WhatsApp, sending messages on WhatsApp to say that change your internet banking password, click this link and log in. Those are different types of social engineering attacks. And a lot of time we even forget about the physical attacks. Physically stealing a laptop. Physically walking into a space, trying to speak to you and get access to your information. Physically going into a server room, taking up a server. We have been on engagements like that. These are real security threats and risks that are out there. And even AI, artificial intelligence. Attackers are using artificial intelligence to identify weaknesses in network. This is automated continuously, 24/7, scanning the environments. If we bring up some statistics about Jamaica, it continuously changes. The hackers have access to these information. It's making it very easy to target different countries, different organizations with some of these technology. Even cloud is being attacked. You do have cloud-based attacks. We have seen a 95% increase in cloud-based attacks last year compared to the year before. A lot of time we say just because we move to the cloud, we don't have to think about security. That's not true. There are misconfigurations when it comes on to cloud. You're just transferring the risk. You're not eliminating the risk. So you also have to consider hardening those environments. And web-based, I showed you the statistics at first now. Over 4.1 million websites have malware at any given time. There are still a lot of malicious websites out there. Websites that has weaknesses built into it. And you have different ways of exploiting these. SQL injection, cross-site scripting, I can't get into all of these details. We need a longer lecture, but it's a significant landscape when it comes on to attack. And I'm going to start with a very quick demo. So remember about the Wi-Fi? So this is me at a hotel, not in Jamaica. And how they set up the Wi-Fi is that each room would have a free Wi-Fi, right? And their Wi-Fi is open. So I've connected to A109. One of the first things a hacker would do is to say, okay, let's identify where the router is, or where is the internet coming from on this network. And I'm not using any specific tools. So the first thing they identify is that the router is at 10.1. Now, the next step is to try and gain access to that router. So we're going to try and visit that website. So you go into your web browser, you type 192.168.10.1. And what comes up, this is the page for the router. A very revealing information is here though. It's showing you the Linksys version, meaning this is the version of the router. Doesn't take a lot of advanced skills, so I'm just going to use Google. Google brings up the user manual for this router. In bringing up the user manual, it shows me the password. That's a complex password, right? Username, admin, password, admin. Now we have administrative access to this router. It's as easy as that. That's how a hacker can get into a router. This router is given Wi-Fi access, right? Now, if I was malicious, I could lock out anybody else that's connected to this. I could change the password. I could change the configuration. I can see who is connected, see the different traffic that's being sent. And this is just a simple example of how a wireless network can be compromised. That was an open Wi-Fi at a hotel. So here I'm going to go a step further. Let's see who else is on that network. Remember, the hotel told me that you're the only person that's supposed to be connected to this Wi-Fi, right? Because each room has a wireless network. So we brought up another tool and we did a scan. This is doing what's called a port scan. It's going to see, is there any other devices that are out there that's connecting? Or are there any other services that's running on the device? Once I do this scan, I see the router that we knew, but I see a Brian machine that's connected. Why is Brian connected on the same network as me? Now, if I was malicious, I could now start targeting Brian and launching an attack. So this is how hackers think. So they start by finding a simple loophole into the network and simply start exploiting it. That loophole was first the open Wi-Fi, then having a weak password associated with it, allowing me to configure the router or the switch. I could change the name, I could do anything, but I also see that other persons are connected. So that's a very simple exploit right here. Question again. Who can spot the difference with simtie.com?
The I is in a different font.
The I is in a different font. And what does that mean?
The I, I'm sure of the I.
Yes.
Not the A, but I'm sure of the I.
Okay, so do you think that the first simtie is the same as the second simtie?
No, I suspect the second simtie was really just.
So you're spotting a difference with the I, right?
Right. So I suspect that a hacker might have, because they can't use the same website name as simtie.com, so they change the letter and then would use this link as a fake link. And if you're not looking carefully for a difference between the websites, you're thinking, oh, it's the same simtie, but when you click that website, they can gather information from you, from your device.
Okay, but it's spelled the same.
But the font different, sir.
So what's so bad with the font being different?
Because
Right.
if it was the same website, the font would be the same.
All right, so which one is a legitimate simtie then?
I would suspect the one that do have the weird font.
Which one is a weird font?
Weird font is weird eye. So the second one.
You sure about that?
Sure, if I'm wrong, but I'm sure about it.
Anybody else? Everybody agree? The first one is a weird eye. And anybody else? Which one is a weird one? What if they're both fake? Are you see how difficult it is to identify which one is a real one? It's not? So what if I change all of them to have the same font as the last one?
I would look for the lock sign.
We look for the lock sign. Okay, that's a good check. That still doesn't mean that the website is safe, by the way. All right. How many times would you go and type in that link by yourself, huh? Really? You would really be browsing the internet and say you're going to type in www.ncbja.com? Or you just go and click on the link? Especially when you get an email, right? You just click on the link. That's a bad practice.
I get a link on Instagram, for example, I'm not going to click on the link on Instagram. I'm going to paste it in the Google to see if anything comes up, to see if it's legitimate first before I click on it.
You're not an average user, but that's a good practice. Still don't click on links. So I'm going to skip this one because we're not too sure which one is a legitimate one, right? Or somebody, the first one? Let's take one more.
What if the second SIM tie is with the messed up eye is actually their logo, so they could have it different from other things?
All right, so the second one could be legitimate, also could be the first one, but this is a type of attack that's called homograph, meaning they substitute letters with different letters from different languages. So you have our Times New Roman, you have Greek, you have what's called Unicode, Punicode. So what's happening here is an attacker would substitute the real SIM tie, which we don't know which one is the real SIM tie. Still the first one? Okay. So they're doing the substitution, and they would send this to you in an email, or they would send it to you in an SMS. When you casually browse over it, you may not identify that this is not the real SIM tie. So there is a lot of different types of breach patterns that are out there. And a breach essentially is a compromise of your data, of your website, meaning a successful attack would happen. What we have seen over the years is that between system intrusion and social engineering, there are some of the top attacks that are out there that's associated with any breach. System intrusion would be related to malicious softwares being delivered. So it would have been an example such as ransomware, malware, you have spyware, Trojans. All of these are different types of system intrusion, meaning unauthorized access to a system. We already went through social engineering, and there's also web-based applications. So you can see the trend changing over the years, right? But social engineering is always there, and system intrusion is always there. What we have seen in the Caribbean, though, and this includes stats from Latin America and the Caribbean, is that there's over 500 incidents that was reported last year. And I'm saying reported because there's a lot of breaches and incidents that occur that's not reported. I know Mr. Warren Williams is going to be speaking about that. And what's also interesting is that a lot of these attacks have a financial motive, right? Meaning they're always trying to gain some type of money, profit. We're hardly seeing the thrill seekers out there. It's always about gaining some type of money. That's the main reward. And the type of data that's compromised, so your personal information, system information, credentials, your username, your password. When we're doing engagements, we see a lot of usernames and passwords that are associated with data breaches. And these are just some examples of some data breaches or some hacks that have happened right here in the Caribbean. Just examples. Right here in Jamaica, NCU in 2022. Even countries have been hacked. Costa Rica. They were hit by ransomware attacks. The entire country was locked down for days. Massy was also hit. In 2023, Martinique, another country, was also affected by a ransomware. And when these ransomware impact the country, it's a significant problem. Ports are closed, meaning you can't import anything, you can't export anything. You can't get paid. Imagine you're working for the government and you can't get your salary. Mayberry, Quartz, even PriceSmart was recently hacked in 2023. Even CARICOM, their website was hacked. These are just some examples in 2024. And again, this is just examples. The list is way longer than this. On average, there's over $4 million associated costs with a data breach. Meaning you'll lose business, it will take you X amount of time to recover. You have to spend money to harden your systems. Hopefully you don't pay the ransom. We haven't even touched on the reputational damage. Over $1.5 million in payment is the average for a ransomware. Imagine you as a person got hit by a ransomware. Maybe they won't ask for a 1.5 million US dollars, but even if it's $10, it's $10 less than what you would have, right? And over 51% of companies would say after they've hit by a ransomware or any type of security incident, they would then start investing in it. It's always a reaction, not being proactive. And 74% of the time, there's some human element, meaning we are the problem. We have seen organizations implement millions of dollars in technology, yet we go around and write down our passwords on a paper. Or we tell someone else our passwords, bypassing all of that control. So this is an example of a data breach. We chose the Massey incident. So Massey, at the time, was one of the largest data breach that occurred in the Caribbean. That has since changed, but a lot of company information was actually breached. So you may hear the word breach and say, okay, yes, their website was down, this happened to them. But in reality, actual company information was leaked. This is a stock order showing someone's personal request, making us update form. Their signatures is on it, so we have sanitized some of the information. Shows you the date. This is somebody's ID. It shows you that this is real data. This is just an example. Again, sanitize the information. Imagine your driver's license, your passport getting leaked in a data breach. These are some of the information that hackers have out there for you if you have been impacted by a data breach. And now what they can do is leverage this information. They can create fake identities as you. They can take a loan out as you. So I've been talking about ransomware, right? So let's see how easy it is for a ransomware to affect someone. So this is a simple scenario. During COVID, we all wanted to get updates. We all wanted to get information real time. And what hackers did is that they played with this. They knew that you wanted to get information. So they created a COVID app, and they started to send it out to people. So this is showing that we're on a mobile device. This is an Android. Doesn't mean that iPhone can't be hacked. We're all vulnerable. But the hacker delivered this malware to them. And the user would download the app because they wanted to get an update, right? So they're visiting a URL, they download the application. Most of the time when you download the application, you don't even read the permissions that you're given access to, right? You just click allow, allow, next, next, next. So person did that. It's asking for access to pictures, phone book, everything. Location. And upon installing, the first thing, the app disappeared. That's very suspicious. The next thing is the user is going to try and log in and try to open different applications. You see it's running in the background. They can't open their pictures. They can't open the Play Store. They can't open anything. That's a simple way of demonstrating a ransomware. So now they have to pay the money to get back access to their phone or their data. And this typically is a process with ransomware. So it's either delivered through phishing, or there's an exploit, meaning exploiting a vulnerability in a system or application, or remotely trying to deliver the ransomware. Once they have access, they would lock your device or lock your data, and what they would also do is exfiltrate your data, taking your data out of the network, copying your data. So they lock you out and they copy your data. So even when you pay the money, there's no guarantee that they will release your data. There's no guarantee that you will gain back access to that data. And you don't know what they're going to do with it. So passwords, 93% of them are 8 characters or less during a brute force attack. 54% of organizations, they don't have a password manager. Do you have a password manager? How do you remember your password? Or do you use the same password across multiple devices, multiple applications, right? Imagine that one password getting compromised. Now they can log into all of your different systems. And 48% of the time, organizations don't have a process for IT help desk or service desk. We have seen a recent breach with MGM. Just because they didn't have a proper process to verify a person calling into the help desk and saying, hey, please reset my password, they got compromised. And 41% of the time, password used are 12 characters or long, meaning it's pretty long or complex, but it can still be brute forced. These are some of the top weak passwords. Who had said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? See? Even admin is a weak password, and we still see a lot of devices being deployed with admin as a username, admin as a password. Hackers know this. This is a sample of a phishing email. So if I didn't highlight some of these items, you would not pick up that this is a phishing. So the first thing, when you look on the email address, it's coming from security.onmicrosoft.com. That's not a legitimate Microsoft domain or email. But just because you see Microsoft in it, you may say, yeah, man, this is real. Then sometimes they may say, hey, dear customer. But hackers are even getting more clever now, and they're addressing you based on your first name. They're being more personal. They're looking for your email signature. They're embedding that. This has malware attached to it. So to the naked eye, this may seem legitimate. But really and truly, this would have been a phishing email. And if you downloaded this document, you would have been impacted by a malware. So let's take a few minutes to just look inside of the mind of a hacker.
How did you decide to become a hacker?
Well, I'm not really sure what it means to become a hacker. That's like some guy in a hoodie who types really fast and stays up all night writing code and cracking passwords. It's not me. I just spy on people and see what makes them click. It's not a bad job.
Mark Hanning, CEO of Qualicard, set to report earnings after their blockbuster IPO.
So you consider this a job?
I put a lot of work into this. I'm not lazy. It takes research to figure out the key players, learn all about them, their families, their friends, what they care about. You have to understand the company's organization. I get a lot of my information from the sales department because they're always so quick and eager. They're hungry. People trust too easily. They don't look at the details. I do. Details matter. That's what I'm good at. It has to look completely believable. It has to look familiar. This is where research is important. It's not some generic piece of spam. It's an email from their boss with their company signature. It's written in the voice of the boss. It's what he would say if he were writing this.
What about the malware itself? How does that work?
Somebody else out there already wrote all the code that does the actual attack. I'm just using it in the attachment. My skill is in my ability to get a bunch of people to click on that attachment. I always wonder what it's like when the whole thing unfolds on their end, when the panic sets in.
Please leave your message after the beep.
Hey, this is Rajiv in finance. Call me as soon as you get this. Something's up with my laptop. I can't.
Katie, are you on your way into the office? Something's going on with our file servers.
Karen in HR, our benefits dashboard seems really slow. We're getting calls from users on it. Give me a call when you get this. Joining conference now.
Apparently, there's a malware attack targeting our main...
It's ransomware. They're holding us hostage.
We're locked out of everything. I can't even check my phone. What about the backup?
That will take days.
We need this fixed now. Pay it. We don't have a choice. We're reporting earnings in 2 hours.
But how do we know that they'll...
Pay it. Put every single person on getting us back up and running. That's the only priority now.
Okay, it's done.
I have the decrypt key. Mark, we have a big problem.
The ransomware was just to distract us. They got inside. They got everything. Customer data, finance.
So that was very interesting, right? So you see how easy it is to launch an attack. Scary. Started by just doing research. They knew the company that they're going to target. They even did research on the family. Sent a friend request to the wife. They knew that the company was going to disclose their financials. Saw who the directors were. They bought a domain similar to the real SimTi, right? You see the same I? Change the I to a L. It's going to be very hard if you see that real time. Contacted sales or marketing, say, hi, I'm interested in your product. They would send an email, they would get the email signature, take that email signature and just modify it. Say, yes, I'm Mark, I'm the boss. Even pretend to sound like the boss. Send a request. That's how easy a company could be compromised. And they ended up paying a ransomware. And they still got hit. They still got impacted. I recommend not to pay the ransom, by the way. So 42% of the time when we do our penetration tests or our ethical hacking, we identify that companies have misconfigured devices or systems. So I showed you the easy, weak password. We do see this on a day-to-day basis. It is that easy at times. Systems not being patched or updated. Cryptography, meaning not using encryption. And in 2022, there was 360 billion cyber attacks in the Caribbean. Not million, billion with a B. That accounted for 10% of the global threat. Last year, it dropped to 200 billion, but still a significant amount. But it accounted for 14% of the global threat. And right here in Jamaica, last year we saw over 43 million attacks. It is on the rise. So in closing, some quick recommendations. Use strong passwords. Passwords have been around for a very long time. It's going to be hard to get rid of them. We know there's passwordless environments now, biometrics, but you have to use your passwords. Utilize a strong one. Ensure that you have a password manager, so don't use the same password across multiple devices or multiple applications. Use two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication if you can. Meaning have an additional layer. So yes, you enter your username and password. If that is correct, you need to get a code sent to you. You need to have a code that's being generated, maybe a authenticator app. Utilize it. Always practice defense in depth. Have security awareness training. You can't have enough training. I'm pretty sure some of these things that you have seen, this is the first time you're seeing it. And we haven't even touched into some of the more advanced items that we encounter. Perform backups. Don't just have the backups. Test it. Ensure that it's encrypted. We have seen cases where clients say, yes, I have a backup. I've been hit by a ransomware, but I have a backup. When they recover, they restore the ransomware because the ransomware was also in the backup. And that's because they didn't test it. Have all your devices up to date. I know it may seem annoying sometimes where, oh, I have a Microsoft update. It's prompting me to restart my phone or my device, and you don't want to restart it. Please apply the updates and restart it. You're protecting yourself by doing that. And practice good email hygiene. Meaning screen all of your emails. If you can have tools in place to scan your emails, scan your links, please enable them. But you also have to do the due diligence of identifying, picking up on some of these simple tricks. And have different layers of security tools in place. And of course, you have to get tested. Test yourself. If you don't have a company that can test you, test yourself. You have different tools out there that you can leverage to do self-assessments. Check if your password is strong. If you put your password in a password tester though, change that password, because you don't know who may have access to it. And remember this? The first one was actually the incorrect one, you know. Second one was the correct one. So that's it, everyone. These are just some of the services. So cybersecurity is very broad. Penetration tests, cloud-based assessments. There's so many areas. Forensics. It's a very broad field and spectrum. And it's very important that you protect yourself, because hackers are out there that's trying to gain access to your systems, to your data. So thank you, everyone. I don't know if there's any immediate questions. Can we have any questions? Or? Oh, at the end. All right. Yes, thank you.
I can't say enough how engaging that was. It's been a while. I've been in a lecture, and you know, they say we have a 10-minute attention span, but I was glued for the entire time. A bit frightening, but very engaging. Very, very engaging. Thank you, Mr. Ebanks. Next on the program, we have some respondents, experts, I should say other experts in the field that will give their experience with the issue of the mind of the hacker. Earlier, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Dr. Leo Ray Gordon, economist at NCB. So please join me in welcoming to the platform Mr. Dane Nicholson, Mr. Otis Osborne, and as well Superintendent Warren Williams. Let me introduce these gentlemen a little bit more formally. Mr. Dane Nicholson is an experienced fraud prevention practitioner and currently holds the post of head of fraud prevention for the National Commercial Bank Financial Group. He is responsible for developing the fraud prevention program for NCB and its subsidiaries, and for exercising oversight of the fraud prevention programs across the group. This includes implementing an appropriate framework and mechanism to prevent, identify, and mitigate fraud, and to evaluate and report on fraud-related security risks. Mr. Otis Osborne in the center is the acting dean of the School of Mathematics, Science, and Technology at the University of Commonwealth Caribbean. He facilitates courses in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data science, programming, networking, and cloud computing. He's also a researched author. He's recently published a paper, a novel optimized variant of machine learning algorithm for accurate energy demand prediction. I don't know if Mr. Osborne, you will go into that today, but it sounds very interesting. And last but not least, Superintendent Warren Williams. He is second in command at the Communications, Forensic, and Cybercrime Division at the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. He is a trained radio frequency propagation specialist and a manager of terrorism investigations and also in cybersecurity. Please help me again to welcome our panelists. I will ask you each to just take about 5 minutes to reflect on the lecture given, and as well provide your own experience in the area of cybersecurity. After which, we will take questions from the audience and the online community.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I just realized I'm in a room with people. All right, so indeed, what Mr. Rory has presented is a reality, and of course, the moderator would have expressed that it was engaging, and indeed it was, but he also expressed that it's scary. One economist said that technology is here for economic growth and development. So you don't want to be scared, but to use it in a society and a world where we become more efficient and more effective in what we do. But based on my other hat as a minister of religion, Isaiah 4:6 says, lack of knowledge will cause people to perish. So if you don't know what is happening in the environment, then of course you will become a victim. So some of what he presented is an eye-opener for all of us, because it is said that in 2015 the world should be fully digital. We're now in 2024, 9 years after. So all of you who still have your analog and television sets, you need to throw them out the window because we're fully digital. You may ask the question, then how can we really protect ourselves against, cyber attacks and hackers? It is a difficult question to answer because we sometimes are proactive, sometimes we are reactive, but based on where I am and what I've seen in terms of trends, I'm not going to give you any figures because I don't want you to get scared, but of course the trend is happening daily, as Rory would have said, and we have to be trying to counter it as best as we can. So use technology. Of course, use it responsibly, and I'm not saying you won't be a victim. That's my few cents.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, good evening, everyone. As was stated, I'm the acting dean of the School of Mathematics, Science, and Technology at the UCC. And of course, one of my areas is cybersecurity. What was not mentioned, though, was that I am the current, well, not even current, but the chairman of the Internet Society since its inception. That is the Jamaica chapter. Now, one of the things that we realize as an Internet society, we want to build a resilient web, right, or Internet. And one of the tools that was developed is a tool that can check websites if they are secured. And one such tool is called internet.nl. You can just use your browser on your cell phone, and you can even check if, for example, jncb.com is secure, right? And how secure it is, or any website for that matter. Why I mention this is because many of us have not been proactive in the way we use these digital devices and technology, right? You get so caught up by what can be done using these devices. But it's simple things like, for example, your cell phone. Rory mentioned that smishing, for example, right? In India, in November last year, India was struck, the banking sector was struck by cyber attacks using SMS. So SMS are sent to these unsuspecting individuals for them to install banking apps that look exactly like the official banking apps. And they steal the customer's information and was able to, well, the bank is not affected, of course. It is the customers, it is you who will be affected, right? There's a mention of what I thought he would have included too, is that the fact that your SIM card, right, is an easy way to get data or even to divert text messages to someone else, an attacker. So that's SIM jacking. So simple things that many unsuspecting persons do not know is that you can protect your SIM card. Many persons, the phone is stolen, but it's not necessarily because they want the phone, they want the SIM card. What some persons have not done is, for example, there is a lock within the settings of your phone where you can lock your SIM card so that it is locked only to your device. It can't be used in another device. There's also, for those who may not know, there is the eSIM, right? So it is not a physical SIM, it's an eSIM, which is better secure than the physical SIM that can be removed from your phone, inserted, and even that could be a way to undermine two-factor authentication. Because remember now that sometimes the two-factor authentication that you set up is to receive a text message to verify that you are the owner of the account, for example, or device. There's also, so we have to be mindful of the ways that you can implement authentication measures. So there is something you know, passwords and so forth, something you are, that's your biometrics, something you have, like a physical token that, for example, NCB utilizes. But there's also somewhere you are, and that is geolocation. So based on where you are, you cannot carry out certain functions because of your location. Say, for example, if you're using a Jamaican app, banking app, for example, but you should go overseas, it is possible that you cannot use your banking app in that physical space or overseas because it prevents you, the geolocation security prevents you from accessing that type of service overseas. So those are food for thought, and I'm sure that many of you too have, quote unquote, made your home smart homes, right? That's a way into your lives as well.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So Rory did an excellent job of whetting your appetite, and now it has brought home some of the things that we do at NCB. You see the difficulty person had to identify which URL was the correct URL. That certainly drive home the point that we at NCB, much to the demise, or much to the dislike of the marketing team when we had pushed to recommend the no-click, no-link policy. That was because of we know the difficulty, particularly our elderly And now even more so, young individuals, because nobody inside here this afternoon got the correct answer as to what the correct URL was. Well, but that is what the fraudsters want to do as well. They would have achieved their ultimate aim and objective by tricking you to click on a particular link. So when you even look at the malwares that are disseminated via the phishing email, a lot of persons from time to time, when their banking information get compromised, their first sense of inclination is to turn to the bank to blame the financial institutions that they are associated to, but they are not making the connection to their devices or their practices that they do at home. A lot of persons use the same devices that they use to browse the internet, to do their social activity, to visit malicious websites, pornographic websites and stuff like that. A lot of those websites are embedded with keystroke logger malware on them. And what those malware do is that they capture the username, they capture your password, they have the ability to turn on your webcam, they turn on your microphone, they record you. And what they're going to do, when they capture your information through a phishing email that had nothing to do with banking, they send you an email to tell you that you have a tax invoice that is due from a website which looks like the tax office. You're going to be to say, oh, upset, oh, I don't have any tax, and you just click on that email and open it. The fraudsters would have achieved what they want to achieve by getting you to open the email. That email would automatically download the malware on your device, and then they start to capture your information. So a lot of persons are not making that connection into what they're doing in their social activity, into what is causing them financial pain. So it is it was a eye-opener to a lot of persons, and hearing it from a different person, because a lot of time the bank says it, but now you're hearing it from another expert. I'm certain that it will change our customer behavioral pattern. And not just NCB, I would love for the information to be disseminated across the industry, because the risk associated with cybersecurity is not unique to any financial institution. So email takeover, SIM swapping and stuff like those, I'll not get into the discussion about whether an eSIM is better than a physical SIM. That's still up in the air, but that's a whole other discussion surrounding the safety and security around that. But certainly what I want to end with is that cybersecurity, the weakest link in cybersecurity is human beings. And customer education and forums like these is what is going to change the posture and the behavior of our citizens in Jamaica. And that is when we're going to really realize that the investment that financial institutions make, if customers' behavior don't change, a lot of those investments will go to naught. Because if we invest all our profit in keeping our system safe and secure, but humans get emails, they go on malicious website, and they are inadvertently surrendering their username and password, then a lot of those investments will go to naught. So we'll continue to push customer educations like these to get the message out for customers to keep themselves safe and secure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nicholson, Mr. Osborne, and Superintendent Williams. The panelists have said a lot. I think it's time for an opportunity to hear from you with some questions and answers. Rory, I don't know if I can invite you back to the stage to help us field some of these questions. As well, NCB, in collaboration with the university, will offer some spot prizes at the end of the event based on your participation. I see we have some front runners thus far, but the race is not for the swift. All right, so do we have a mic going around? And questions. So we have a question in the middle here.
So I'm not eligible for a spot prize.
Okay.
But I would love to ask a question because working in the bank and having experience with trying to protect myself, I find it extremely difficult to keep up with something like two-factor authentication, right? And I know a lot of our clients are very concerned about tokenization and how inconvenient it can be. But in my case, I find that, things like keeping track of passwords and using different authenticator apps for 5 different things can get pretty exhausting. What are some of your recommendations that I could embody or use to ensure that I'm staying safe while not feeling completely worn down by everything else I need to keep up with?
I would love to respond to that. All right, so that's always a challenge to try to memorize multiple passwords. And I'll encourage you, and you hear the presentation, do not go to a website that generate passwords because they too have been hacked. Right? So what I'd advise you is to use phrase that you can remember. I wake up early, or I get up late. Only you know that. Or better yet, use patois. Who can interpret patois? So by that you can use slight variation, so you don't have to, worry yourself by writing your password on a piece of paper or trying to memorize password for everything. So try that and see how it works.
Can I ask one other person to respond to that question?
Yeah, just to add, also with the Authenticator app, don't think of it as a hindrance to you. It's more of a security. So you just have to change your process or your flow, because it's not going to take 5 seconds for you to open your phone and to look at the code. If I show you how much I have in my phone.
Yeah.
But for you to just take 5 seconds, it's giving you a higher level of security. Not to say that two-factor can't be broken. We have done it on some of our engagements based on how it's implemented. But it's always best to have a defense in depth. So if you can enable two-factor for any of your applications, please do it. As Superintendent Warren mentioned, you can use passphrase, you can use songs. Also, when you put in your password, try to substitute some of the letters. So instead of an A, you might use an at sign. Make it as complex, but try to remember it. I do recommend using password vaults. It is a risk also depending on where the password is stored, the type of vault that you're using. But if you're having countless of passwords, really and truly, you can't memorize all of them. So you have to store them somewhere.
And we say don't use cat, rat, mat, your auntie name, your dog name, forget that. Because anything, and I work in digital forensics, and you need to come to the lab to see any password that is less than 7 characters is easy to break. So that is why we recommend passphrase.
I'm a believer that man makes and man will break. And so I want to bring the looming elephant into the room, NIDS. Because for one government entity to have everything about me, and I don't know how secure that platform is, where are we going with this?
Please don't turn us into politicians.
No, it's not about that.
That's a political
I am really
football.
concerned about it.
And you have right to concern about it. You're correct, because the information about you and I and every Jamaican citizen is not stored in thin air. It is stored on a computer somewhere, and you are right. I need to be curious. Who is going to have my date of birth and all of this? I can show you cases right now. Maybe you need to talk to me after this, where persons have 10 different driver's license. Identity theft is rampant. Persons are getting access to different databases which government operates. So it's a valid concern. And as citizens, you have the right to lobby to protect your interests. So, get into the mood of letting the government know that, listen, what is in place to secure my data, my children's data, such that someone will not steal my identity and implicate me in a negative way.
Mr. Nicholson wanted to respond to that as well.
I just wanted to say that we don't work for the government, so we can't necessarily comment on what policies and procedures they have in place. If you ask us directly about what us at NCB will do to protect our digital assets that we have, then I would be willing to expound on that. But as it relates to what the government is doing, I think that should go to the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Information or one of those government officials who are better placed to answer questions like that.
I want to tell you what is even more scary. I hear the presentation as one of my colleagues speak. We know how what we call juice jacking. You know what is juice jacking? You plug in your charger at the airport and data is now being hacked through the cable. We now have biometric breach. So some of us like to take selfies and pose and pose and pose. The technology is now there to scan that fingerprint and of course replicate it in your biometric access to data and access your data. I'm here to scare you, but I'm here to prepare you anyway.
All right, so my question, because this is all very scary, can our phones be hacked without us clicking a link? And if yes, which OS is more susceptible?
I'll soon give them a chance. Listen, as you hear, one of the persons spoke, I mean, anything that is made by a man is possible to be broken by man. So you need to know the good and the bad side of it. Don't have a false sense of security. Don't let them tell you that, listen, they can't get into your phone, it's fully encrypted and WhatsApp is encrypted. Don't let them fool you. We use the slogan, technology, don't trust it, always verify. So in the bank, when you get a vision, voice notes or a text saying change your username and password, say, no, sir, me not trust it. Let me call the bank first and find out if they really send this message to me. So we could talk a lot of things. I mean, your phone can be recruited as part of a gang. They call it botnets to launch an attack. As my colleague spoke about, ransomware can be running in the background because you click. We now have the Internet of Things where everything is now interconnected. The internet has no borders, it's unregulated, but the border starts from your device, which means you have proper firewall, proper virus protection. That's where it starts. But that don't say we can't get into it just the same. I am also a trained certified ethical hacker. I do things ethically, but it's easy to get into devices.
So before we move on, I'm not sure if we had an actual response to the question in terms of which operating system is better than the other. Does any of the panelists have a view on that?
So what we're not going to do is to promote any operating system over the other. What you as a user have to do is to take the necessary precaution to keep yourself safe and secure.
Thank you.
Yes, all devices have vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So you must be mindful that the same tools that IT professionals like IT administrators, system administrators would use in their job are the same tools that hackers use. So they can come here and they can use a device to scan the room and find an open port. And a lot of you too, you love what? Free Wi-Fi. As you go into Burger King, you say, oh, what's the Wi-Fi? Let me connect to the Wi-Fi, right? You're at risk. You're putting yourself at risk right there.
Remember also that there's a physical aspect. So you may be thinking about Android or iOS. A hacker can literally physically steal your phone.
Right.
Or they can do shoulder surfing. The person right behind you. Maybe you're typing in your password, they could look. So those are just some simple ways that they can. ATMs, so you don't have to look on the technology by itself, you have to look on the entirety.
I think we maybe have time for 2 or 3 more questions. 3, okay.
So I'm a PriceSmart member and I have the app. I know you had made mention of the breach last year. Do I still keep that app? Do I still use it? Or you can't answer that?
So I can't speak in terms of what the breach entailed. I know it affected the PriceSmart in Trinidad. In terms of the data that was leaked, I can't speak to it. We don't test for PriceSmart, so I don't know the controls that have been put in place after the breach. But it's all up to you if you're going to be willingly taking that risk. So for example, other popular apps have been breached in the past and we still use them. Facebook, all of these different types of apps. apps do have breaches in place, and yet we still leverage the data here.
Okay, thank you all. Gentlemen, my question really goes to Dane as well as Superintendent Williams. And a couple of things struck me as I listened to each person presenting. It speaks to being responsible, and it speaks to you, which is personal. And scams and frauds have evolved and the jobs are changing. So now I don't think that banks are going to be employing tellers anymore. They might as well just employ hackers and people to be defending the system,
Ethical
right?
hackers.
Ethical hackers, and to be defending the system. But my question is about the punitive measures, because challenge that we face in the financial services industry, and just any industry, is a fear that people get. And when people do something wrong, they have a tendency of trying to hide it. So, you know, they get rid of the mail that they click on, they go on the media and they quarrel and they complain because it's emotional for them now, because they would have lost and suffered. And quite frankly, they also feel embarrassed. So you have some persons who, because they feel embarrassed, they're going to lash out at somebody else. But when we direct and we do the investigations and we say that, you know, this is the next step to take, because quite frankly, you would have absolved yourself of the responsibility, and we're trying to assist. What is it that the system, from a punitive sense, has in place to either bring those persons, perpetrators, once we would find them, to book, or just to have the persons who are reporting the incidences of exposure and loss, so that they can get to feel as if they would have had some sort of response or action?
Good question, very good question. And based on what you have said, because persons are embarrassed to make the report, we strongly believe that there is gross underreporting, because persons just don't know where to go. And of such, we are not seeing the true picture of persons who are affected. But we say kudos to the Jamaican government, and we constantly push to put in place legislative measures that when perpetrators are found or caught, they are brought to justice. So one, we have the Cybercrime Act of 2015, which is now being revised, and we make recommendations based on what we're seeing in the society and in the environment of what should be inclusive to be, you know, laws in the land. They also have the data protection legislation. So we spoke about the NITs, and this is one of the tools that is available to law enforcement and the justice system. Every institution has a responsibility to protect every person's data. So I give you my photograph, my date of birth, my address. If someone else uses it to my demise, then the institution will be held responsible. So that is in place. Likewise, the Cybercrime Act, which is now being strengthened, greater fines and greater penalties for perpetrators. So the unauthorized access using computer for malicious communication are some of the provisions that are in place. Well, I would allow Dale to talk about that.
I think we have time for
Dale
two,
to talk
two,
about.
two more questions, if we can move on.
I just wanted to add a little bit to what Superintendent said in terms of the punitive action. So there are a lot of legislation on the books. That's not the issue that we face as a country or as an industry. One of the issues is that the counterterrorism and organized crime branch, or in particular CTOC or MOCA, which deals with these matters, they just don't have enough resources to address the problem. So just this morning I was on a call with the superintendent for the fraud squad, because we know of about 900 cases where reports were made, the bank sent these customers to the police, but over the last 6-7 months we haven't seen any arrests in terms of it. So the general public might be of the view that nothing is being done. So yes, we do have these lovely legislations that some of them have not been utilized as much, which is currently being updated. But I think what needs to happen from a law enforcement perspective is that the police need to be a little bit more aggressive with going after some of the perpetrators so that when the customers lose money from the bank, they go and kick and scream on social media. But
I don't know why Dean is chewing his word at me.
No, I'm not chewing the word. I just
resources.
Talk to the government.
Yeah, man. I just telling them that they need more resources to deal with the matter. So that is why persons might think that the bank's not necessarily doing enough, the police not doing enough, because you don't see a lot in the news about the number of persons that are arrested for matters of this nature. Like when you see shooting, they report on that all the time. But it's just the sensationalism that perhaps, well, one, I don't think the police arrest enough person as the bank make the report, because they have a lot of reports that they get on a weekly, monthly basis. Certainly one of the policy we have at NCB, when matters like these happen, we send the customers to make the police report to the police. But if you look at the ratio as it relates to the number of report versus the number of arrests, there's a huge disparity between the number of customers, and that is across the industry that we face. So I think that is something that we're working with the counter-terrorism and organized crime branch, and certainly from NCB and the wider Jamaica Bankers Association perspective, we plan to reach out to the Commissioner of Police to say, this is something that needs some attention. The fraud squad need to get some more resources so that they can put the necessary attention that is needed behind what's happening in this space.
I want to identify just the last two questions. At the back has her hand up for a minute and leading the sweater. So the back and in the sweater. You can go first. Go ahead.
Good evening. This is for either Dane or to Reverend Warren. Rory, you mentioned a little bit about the digital divide between the elderly and young people with regards to cybercrime. NCB, what are you doing to bridge that divide, particularly for the elderly, who we realized, if you watched TVJ recently, so was hacked, or basically his investments was taken. What kind of programs are you putting in place to bridge that divide? Because obviously our elderly would be more susceptible to attacks. And of course, Mr. Warren, you're a churchman. Do you educate them?
All right, let me take a first shot, and then I'm going to ask Belinda to say a few. So first, the story on TVJ was not accurate. That's the first misconception. The next thing that we want to point out from an NCB perspective, we have gone much further than any other financial institution. If you look in Jamaica, there is no other bank that can claim a no-click, no-link policy. We are the only bank that have taken that steps to and when we did that, we had the elderly in mind as it relates to cybercrime, and that they would not be able to differentiate between a spoof website versus the legitimate website. All we are saying to them, if you get an email, if you get an SMS, if it contains a link in it, it's not coming from NCB. It cannot get any simpler than that. Other than that, what we have done recently also, we have taken additional steps in terms of protecting the elderly. So we know our elderly customers are not necessarily the most tech savvy, and their household friendly fraud is the #1 fraud that is on the rise since COVID-19. And persons within their household are exploiting them. What we would have done is to put measures in place to prevent our elderly customers' information from being automatically used to conduct certain transactions online. So let's say, for example, we have a 80-year-old customer who have never signed up for internet banking, and they want to go now and sign up for internet banking. They would have to visit our branches to ensure that certain other authentication is done. We have implemented added due diligence on their platform. And we are also in customer education. We have gone to various churches across the corporate area and conduct seminars like these, and disseminate information that they have appreciated.
And just to support Dane on that as well, we have taken it a step further, and at times when we put conveniences in, we have to also pull back and put a little bit of inconvenience. So the last thing that we would have done is that there is something called rapid transaction. Rapid transaction is a top facility. Now everybody go overseas and they're so happy and good that they can use their Apple Pay and they can use their tap facility, but they're hesitant and quarreling about when that is available here in Jamaica. We have to go with the times, because what will happen is that the infrastructure and technology that we are investing in for the convenience convenience, comfort, and utility of our customers is also being made abreast of the times. So you have some things that are called end-of-life use. So when we put in the new ABMs may be one where you don't even have to touch it. You literally have to walk up to it and tap your card and then put in your information to get your cash. Now, what you find with that is that when people infiltrate for whatever means the customers and breach the customer's account, you find that we're trying to make sure that you are not compromised as much as possible. So we have even cut the limits. Before you could go and you could draw as much as like $250,000 and transfer $500,000. Now we're saying, no, if you're going to transfer $500,000, my girl, you're going to put in your two-factor authentication, or you're going to stop or you're going to be limited to just 100. So no longer will they have the opportunity to swipe out and wipe out somebody's account at one fell sweep. So there's a lot that we're doing. We would have spent even, thank you, we would have even spent in excess of, and I can say this as a fact, $28 million to do educational pieces. We even go as far as to partner with Russian, because the last transaction is not authorized. You understand what I'm saying? So these are things that we will continue to do, and we have met up with the CCRP. We went and we spoke with the audience there. We have also taken them in, show them exactly how to do their transactions, and for them to, you know, that the elderly are the ones that ask the most questions, and they're fearful. If you call them and tell them you're calling from the bank, they're going to hang up on you and say, no, I'm going to call my bank. And those are the things that we really want persons to do. Stop and think before you click.
I might add to that, yeah. From the JCF perspective, we're still in the business of we serve, we protect, and we reassure the citizens of Jamaica. So I am happy for persons like Dean. We partner because one of our tagline is the more we educate, the less need to investigate. So we are ready to partner with all institutions, come to forums like these, make ourselves available to educate the public of the good side of technology and the bad side of it, so that you become a more responsible citizen, such that we can have a safer digital Jamaica.
Thank you. And the final question?
All right, good night, gentlemen. Thank you for the healthy dose of paranoia. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I have two questions. The first one is, Rory, you mentioned password managers earlier, and I wanted to know, when selecting a password manager, what are some of the attributes we should look at? Because in my mind, if I put my password into one thing that's accessing all of my applications, then I might end up in a situation where my password manager becomes compromised, and then every application I have stored in that password manager becomes compromised. And secondly, what best practices or advice do you have for smaller businesses who don't have an NCB budget at hand? What advice can you give to them to be a little bit more proactive in their cyber security stance?
All right, so from a password manager perspective, you have to look at the threat landscape. So for example, are you going to take the risk of having a password manager that's storing your passwords in the cloud, or are you going to store it locally on your laptop or on your phone? That's one of the first things. So once you make that decision, are you going to go open source or are you going to go enterprise? From an open source perspective, how often are they updating or testing those applications? From an enterprise perspective, do they have a frequent testing perspective in terms of identifying threats? What is the landscape? How are they going to remediate it? How frequently is that updated? Is it a free version versus a paid version? What is the type of encryption being used? What is the level of authentication? So there's a lot of caveats that are there. As we mentioned, everything can be broken. There's a weakness that can be exploited. Sometime it may not be now, it may be in the future, but how will they handle that? So that's one of the things that you have to look at. I do recommend choosing one though that, again, if it's not an enterprise version, choose one that may be local to your device, that is not going to be copied to the cloud or synced across. One of the risks with that though is if you put all of your passwords in there and you forgot that one password to unlock it, you lose all of your passwords that are stored in the vault. So you have to think about the risk and the reward. From a small organization perspective, security is not expensive. There are a lot of solutions out there that you can choose to give yourself adverse security. So for example, look at antivirus or anti-malware solutions. You can literally pay $4, $5 US per month to get one of the top of the line antivirus out there that has AI built into it, behavioral analysis, it has rollback feature, you even get cyber insurance. For an organization to say that they're not going to spend $5 per user per month to protect their assets, then why are you even in operation? There's free tools out there that you can use. There's a lot of security awareness training. If you're using Microsoft Teams or Office, they have free training, they have free phishing simulator, free engagement that you can use. You can literally pay as you go. They have so many different security layers that you can add on for a very, very minute cost. I showed you some of the stats pertaining to the breach. 1.5 million US, a company is going to be experienced pertaining to a ransomware breach. While you can literally spend 10,000 US and protect yourself. You can spend $5,000, get a security assessment. So there's a lot of simple steps that you can take. You can get free policies and procedures out there. You don't have to pay a significant amount to say that you're now going to be robust in terms of security. I know NCB and a lot of organizations has a lot of budget, and even when they spend millions of dollars, they still want to invest more. But you can start small and grow as you go.
Okay, I think we have one last burning question in the back. last burning question. Go ahead.
All right. Delaney, good evening again from KPMG. One of my questions is for you, Mr. Ebanks, and it's similar to, it may overlap to my fellow in the audience here. Quite a few companies last year, coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, were hacked. We're speaking the equivalent in Trinidad, the equivalent to JPS, which is TSTT, courts region-wide. We had PriceSmart and a couple other major companies that actually retain a lot of customer data. All right, you mentioned training and awareness, but from as a service provider and from a client perspective, outside of training and awareness and malware and certain functions, programs, etc., what else would you recommend? I mean, for companies that are looking on, what else would you recommend in response?
Get tested. So having the training in place is one aspect that you have to look on, but from an organization perspective, you have to have a robust framework in place. A robust security framework will speak about policies, process, people, technology. And having that in place, you'll consider security at all realms. So from the people, training, doing background checks, testing them randomly, having software and tools to ensure that they're doing their job function. Thinking about what do they have access to? Do they need to have access to this? Do they need to be having access to the IT functions? So you might start scaling back some of the features that they have access to. You also want to ensure that they're using the latest technology. Do they have a breach program in place? If there is an incident, what would they do? How would they respond? How would they mitigate it? So all of these you have to think about from a robust framework. They also have to get tested. So pen testing, vulnerability assessment, get tested and not just getting the results and say, yes, I've done my pen test, but also doing the remediation. A lot of times we at Simta have also done the assessment, provided them with a report, and then the customers may say, okay, I don't have the money to fix it right now, so I'll accept the risk. But if you get the testing done, you need to have the process in place and the framework to ensure that you're going to fix it. So for example, one of the recommendations that we make, critical items, fix them immediately, high risk within 30 days, medium risk within 60 days. So you have a process following that you're going to remediate these items within a particular framework. If you're not going to fix it, then the board or the management has to accept that risk. And now you're going to start thinking about, can I transfer the risk? Can I mitigate the risk? Can I reduce the risk? So if I can't get rid of this vulnerable system, what controls am I going to put in place? Am I going to segment the system, limit who has access to it? Don't give it public access. And I can list so many different frameworks and control, but those are just some of the ways that you can go about protecting yourself.
Thank you so much. This was an excellent panel. I want to thank our panelists and our participants. I'll invite you to take your seat. We're almost to the end. What we have here is a remembrance of why we are here, which is the Rickert Allen Memorial Lecture. Mr. Allen was a visionary and he was a mentor, and in so doing, NCB has established a scholarship in the furtherance of education. And we're going to take 5 minutes just to hear from one of the scholarship experience recipients, Miss Octasia Sterling, via video feed. That would be about 5 minutes. We have identified 2 of our spot prize winners. There's going to be a quiz question to identify the 3rd winner, after which I'll ask the director of our NCB Foundation, Ms. Kenaya Mattis, to give some closing remarks.
Hello everyone. My name is Octasia Sterling, the proud 2023 recipient of the Dr. Rickert Allen Memorial Scholarship. Who is Octasia? Octasia is a resilient young lady who believes, despite the circumstances one is introduced into this world, there is an abundance of potential and unique spark that they can bring to this world. I'm aiming to do so now through my studies in cybersecurity with the ultimate aim of helping to combat cyber crimes that we are now being faced with, especially in Jamaica. When I applied for this scholarship, I was a bit hesitant because of my self-doubt, but I knew that God had a purpose for me. Therefore, He had given me the faith to apply. When I saw this scholarship being advertised on Instagram and I checked the criteria, I realized that I have met them. But I still had my doubts that I wasn't worthy of becoming a recipient of such a wonderful scholarship. But I prayed about it and I took the leap of faith and applied, and there I am today, the proud recipient of this scholarship. Also forever grateful to NCB for giving me this opportunity. It has not only helped me to focus more on school and less on my financial burdens, but it has restored confidence within me. It has motivated me to put myself out there more. It gave me that drive to do my best and to always be open for opportunities, no matter what. One reason I hold this scholarship dear to my heart is their drive to give back to communities. As a member of the St. Mary Advocate for Youth Club and the Dennichin Foundation, I love to give back. These initiatives, they involve community members by way of learning, raising awareness, or even fundraisers in order to help the less fortunate. I have also collaborated with 24 Good Deeds in March to feed the homeless. We have fed over 250 persons, and we have also donated to the Spanish Town Hospital. My aim is to give back as much as I can in any way that I can. For persons looking to apply for this scholarship, the first thing I want to say is to bet on yourself. Take a chance on yourself. For an opportunity as amazing as the Rickert Allen Memorial Scholarship, you have to take a chance on yourself and apply. It was Marcus Garvey who said, "If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in this race of life." You have to believe that you deserve this scholarship, and then you have to go for it. You have so much potential within you, and this scholarship wants to invest in it. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. If you have no confidence in yourself, you're twice defeated in life. So to identify our final spot prize winner, I'm going to ask, it's a quiz question. So if you're willing to come and volunteer to answer the question, please come up. We have one, and I need one other person, and we'll evaluate who gives the better answer to be our final winner. And I want to ensure that whoever is coming up is not already one of the 2 who are winners, because you're not going to get 2 prizes. All right.
Thank you.
Who will answer first?
That's an unfair advantage, though.
I think we should
Well,
Okay, go ahead, sure.
what is the question, actually?
so you're going to answer first?
All right, I'll take it. First beat.
Question, and you're all the judges. What are 2 things that you will do after today's lecture to enhance your digital security?
Okay, so, just 2?
Only 2. And you have 30 seconds
To say the answer
or
or
less.
to think?
Yes.
To say the answer or to think?
To say the answer.
Okay, so my first thing is that I will do some research into a password vault. I think someone mentioned phrase, and I will find a secure place to secure my passwords, hopefully on my device in and of itself, not on the cloud. And I will take a closer look at the websites and links that I come into contact with, not only directly via social media sites, but also by my friends saying, oh, saw this link somewhere or whatever. So I'll do a deeper evaluation into the various risks that I may come in contact with on my device, directly or indirectly. That is my answer.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I'm going to keep it simple. I've never trusted password managers, so I'm going to stick with Mr. Williams over there and stick to the phrases with the unique characters and the patois. And the second thing is to continue to be a skeptic, not to click on links, not to actually try and figure out which SIM tie is which, so I'll just keep doing the calls since we're not too good at that apparently. And that's it. Keep it simple.
Good. Nice. And your names?
Oh, my name is Kalia Phillips. I am a student here at the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean studying an associate degree in information technology, and I also work in the Information Entrepreneurship and Technology Center.
Thank you, Kalia. And your name?
Okay, so I'm Krishana Christie. I'm a manager at KPMG. However, I am a graduate of the UCC where I completed my degree in business administration with a major in information systems management.
Okay, great. It's now up to the judges at NCB. At NCB, we don't like any. All right, both prizes. Belinda, you can manage that. Okay, so we have 2 prize winners here. And in addition, we have as well identified Sonia Davidson and Kenya Johnson. So please receive your prizes afterwards. Thank you. And to close, the director of the NCB Foundation. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're mic'd? You're here. Thank you. Okay. It's on the other one.
It is on. Yes. Good evening, everyone. How are we feeling? Are we all appropriately scared? Paranoid? I think this event should have been rated F for fearful, but my name is Kenya Mattis. I am a director at the NCB Foundation, and it has really been a pleasure just to witness this event and to participate alongside you all this evening here and online. And as we conclude the 4th annual NCB UCC Dr. Rickert Allen Memorial Lecture, I really have to sincerely thank you all for participating in this very thought-provoking, insightful, and hopefully life-changing event this evening. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. So during our time together, we have explored the ins and outs of cybersecurity, also human psychology, because we got to see inside the mind of a hacker so that we could ourselves think like one as well, and how it affects both businesses and society and us personally as well as we go about our daily lives. Our conversations this evening, I think, have really shed some light on the important connection between technology and human error, revealing that a significant portion of cyber attacks, 70% to be precise, stem from human vulnerabilities. This striking statistic underscores the urgency with which we have to pay attention to these matters. So go home, make sure you talk to your grandparents, make sure you talk to your parents, and also just evaluate ourselves, what it is that we're doing to protect ourselves in this new era. In 2023, Jamaica faced a staggering 43 million cyber attack attempts, underscoring that the escalating threat landscape, and the relentless determination is not going to go away. These unsavory actors are going to continue, if we're not careful, to gain a footing in the digital landscape space. So let's not forget that this is a very expensive activity. 60% of small businesses, 60% close within 6 months following a cyber breach. This is in large part because the average cost of a data breach in 2023 is estimated at a staggering $4.4 million US. And that sum has a significant implication for any business of any size. So, fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing, that's even more critical now in this digital and dynamic landscape. We're all in this together. So events like the NCB, UCC, Rickert Allen Memorial Lecture provide invaluable platforms to exchange insights, ask questions, fortify our collective defenses against these threats, while honoring the human resource practitioner's legacy, one that is characterized by innovation, foresight, and we have to also be dedicated to progress. So, before we bid farewell, this evening, I would like to express my appreciation to NCB and the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean for their commitment to expanding cybersecurity awareness. And I'd also like to thank our speakers. Could you please join me in thanking them as well? I'm sure you're going to be, I'm not going to say plagued with questions, but you're going to definitely have some more questions to answer before we leave this evening. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. And your insights have helped us to better comprehend this ecosystem, and we will definitely continue to spark important conversations, contributing to our collective efforts in safeguarding our digital assets. So as we part ways this evening, let us carry forward the lessons learned here, and together let us remain vigilant, adaptable, and resolute in our pursuit of cybersecurity. Let's be healthy skeptics and make sure that we don't click before we investigate. Copy the link, don't just click, as we had heard. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay cyber aware, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.